We're live, Dave. We're live. Hey, this is the Pulling Each Other Along show. Hopefully, y'all join us. We've got a very, very special guest tonight coming from Flagstaff, Arizona. As you can see on the screen, this is the Pulling Each Other Along show, and we've got Hobbs Kessler. And you might say, who the heck is Hobbs Kessler? Well, we're going to find out. Many of you might have already researched him as you're coming in, but we want to ask questions of Hobbs. We might even have a cross-country team or some track people that join us tonight. A very interesting young man that I was able to meet just a couple of weeks ago out in Arizona. I was able to meet this young, not eat him, but meet him in Arizona. And there we go. So Dave Geis and Clark, how are we doing?
Good. Really good. Good, Doug.
Your gaff there.
To my gaff. There we go. I feel like
I'm doing really good, and I'm excited to have Hobbs on the show.
And you're excited that I'm next to you
because
you love that.
I'm not really excited about that now.
Dave Geis.
Unfortunately, you're in Florida now.
I'm excited to see you guys next to each other.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
And you got your Pulling Each Other Along hat that you finally
sure.
That I would like to have one.
Yeah, we're working on that. You know,
we're working on it.
A year or two.
Well, people, I don't know who's chatting with us already. April, thank you for joining us. We just love having April.
Hi,
April.
And her picture of her son Gabriel. We just appreciate you joining us and the other folks that are on. But without further ado, I want to bring in our special guest, not Roy Hobbs, but Hobbs Kessler. And I guess we have to always equate it to baseball somehow. He's the natural, but he's not the natural in baseball. We just found out during the pre-show.
Right.
So Hobbs, how are you doing? And how's Flagstaff, Arizona?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. It's good out here.
It's good out there. You got some COVID stuff going around.
I'm sure it's a little bit warmer there than here.
Yeah, that seems to be the world we're living in now, though, which kind of sucks. But
yeah, well, hopefully you can run faster away from that. But unfortunately, it's probably not the truth of it all. So tell us, before we get started, if you can give your introduction. You broke Jim Ryan's records, for Pete's sake. I mean, it's you're doing pretty incredible things, but there's going to be a lot of pressure probably on you as a young man running at the level that you have already run coming out of high school. But let's just tell us about yourself. What do you like to do? Where are you from? All those good things.
Yeah, my name is Hobbs Kessler. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm, I guess, a newly pro 1500 meter runner. 805. 5K too, but mainly the 15. And I'm kind of just figuring stuff out with the running right now. It's all pretty new and exciting. But I also I've done rock climbing my whole life, and that's another big thing I do. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Running and climbing.
So
I have a question right off the bat.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you're from Michigan. You grew up in Michigan. Right?
Yeah.
So obviously to be an elite runner like you are, you have to do a lot of running. Isn't that pretty difficult to do year round in Michigan?
Yes. But I think it almost is good to have the cold winter in a way, because it makes sure you don't train too hard too early. You can kind of not burn yourself out early, getting really excited when the season starts. So it can almost be a blessing, and it makes you a little bit tougher. So
there'd be plenty of obstacles, though. I mean, I grew up here in Wisconsin, and I'm sure the Michigan weather is much like this. Plenty of snow, plenty of ice, plenty of cold. So it throws all kinds of obstacles at your training, I'm sure.
Yeah, it definitely could be a challenge, and luckily I'm not the first runner to go through it, and my coach has been coaching it in Ann Arbor for 40 years, so he's got it figured out to a degree of how to manage the cold.
Right. Nice. I don't know how many runner fans that we have on this, which we don't want that one. Yeah, this is a better screen, I guess. I'm at Dave's house, and so I'm not on my normal controls here, so I can blame it on that. Right. But I want to kind of put it in perspective for people because I'm the one that has the running background. We often talk about baseball because of Dave and Dave here having the baseball background more so than I do. But when we're talking about Hobbs Kessler and the amazing things that he's already done and why Adidas signed him and he's gone pro, even though we want to talk about some other things tonight, but I want to put it in perspective of some people. So this young man right here in high school ran the equivalent of a 350 mile, all right, for people. And he ran a time so fast, he qualified for the Olympic trials, ran in the Olympic trials. But he also not just ran fast, he ran a 334 1500 meter. And so some of the people out there might not even know how fast that is, what that is. But to put it in perspective, in high school, his national record now in high school is faster than any collegiate has ever run. Wow. And so if that puts it in perspective for people, that's the kind of amazing thing that he did. And there's a great picture here. And I love this picture because this is your national record here, Hobbs, and you got your hands up in the air. Normally, you don't put your hands up in the air unless you win, right, Dave Clark?
Usually that's the
right. But in this case, it was appropriately so. What were you feeling when you saw what your time was that day there, Hobbs?
I was like, this can't be right. It was like it felt like kind of like a cartoon. It was really bizarre. It took a while to kind of like wrap my head around
right.
how fast I ran. So it was crazy. Like seeing that time, I was like, what just went down? Not something I expected to see. Yeah. You can see in that picture, I'm like looking at the clock as I crossed the finish line.
Right.
That's cool.
I got a question for Hobbs and Doug, because I don't have anything about running. Couldn't do it myself, and I know nothing about it. So, but I saw that picture. Doug says you're setting a world.
Yeah.
In that picture, but yet there's a runner in front of you. What's going on there? How come that guy didn't get time?
Yeah.
I'm confused with that picture.
All right. So you want to explain that, Hobbs?
Yeah. So I the record that I set was the American Junior 1500 meter record. So that's just for everyone under 20.
Gotcha.
And then all those guys were older and like more established pros.
All right, that makes sense. I was going to ask that myself. That makes sense.
Clarifies that. Now, coming from a guy that doesn't, again, have a lot of knowledge of running, but I'm going to equate it to baseball for you, Hobbs. As a pitcher, when I was a starting pitcher, we had a 3, 4, or 5 man rotation. So the starting pitcher would throw, and then he'd have 3 or 4 days of rest to recover until his next start. I'm assuming that's kind of what a runner does. You bust your butt, you give it all you got for a race, and then you take some time. You can't run consecutive races, consecutive days, can you? You could. You have to, like in big championships like the Olympics, you have to run back-to-back days. But when you really want to run fast times, most of them are done just in one race, and running beats you up. So you definitely got to like make sure you recover. You can't go hard every day. That's for sure. Okay.
Right, and that's what a lot of teams are doing differently now. The teams that are winning, they're like when I was in college, we raced every week, and for me it was okay because I was a middle distance runner running to get in shape. But for the guys that were really distance runners, it didn't serve them very well to have to race every week, kind of prove that they were a top runner on the team, where it's very, very different now. And Hobbs, you're getting to see that, at Northern Arizona, it's at such the high level of runners that they have there. So it's very different. But, it is amazing. Now you have some other things that you like to do. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, tell us those things.
Well, I basically it's just rock climbing, but that's kind of what until recently was kind of more familiar with, and the kind of what I spent like most of my time doing, or most of my time thinking about, I should say. Yeah, that kind of picked up running in high school, but like since I was little, I was climbing.
Right. So I have a little video I'm going to try to show here if it'll work. There we go. I think the people can still hear us. I did that sound. So this is you climbing on an indoor. How recent is this?
That's about a year ago in
Yeah.
August. Last
Nice.
August, I should say. But yeah, so that's my backyard actually.
It's in your backyard.
Oh, really? And how did you get into this?
So we had a wall. We have this shed in our backyard, and we had a wall in there when I was
Now
when I
that
was young.
I
So
just picture to show you doing some crazy stuff
Well,
there.
Hope you ain't falling down.
Yeah.
so that was in Tuolumne Meadows, in Yosemite.
Yeah.
man,
That's
no way would I be doing that.
So I'll show this thing again because wow, that's amazing too. And you know, and I know for me because again, Dave and Dave don't have the running background that I have.
Wait a minute now. We used to run all the time.
Yeah, you used to
All
run.
the
You
time.
did polls. You did polls.
All
You
the
complained
time.
about it the whole time.
Yes.
5
But-
miles a day.
But one of the things for me, and that I think you have this huge advantage as a runner at your level, is I think when I got done a race, my arms and my shoulders were more tired than my legs. And always, you know, and I didn't work on, I don't think I worked on my upper body as much. It doesn't mean we didn't do it, but you've been doing it for years and you've been doing it for fun. How much do you think that's affected the level of running that you have?
Yeah, I think like the strength I got from climbing definitely has helped my running a lot, and just like the general fitness has helped it a lot. But more so like just like the mental thing for competing in running and competing in climbing. It's like the same mental process. So
Right.
so even though like running was new to me, I was familiar with how to compete. And that was really the more than any sort of like physical strength.
Right.
Hobbs, coming from a guy again, not knowing much, but
That's an
About
understatement.
running.
you're pro. You got signed by Adidas as a pro.
hmm
If I did the same thing as a baseball player, technically I wouldn't be able to play baseball in
Right.
college. How does that work? Explain to the audience what a pro runner does and why you're still eligible to compete collegiately. You're
well, the
okay.
bummer is I'm not. I got
Okay.
lost all my eligibility when I signed
I
with an
figured.
agent.
Yeah.
But which is again, it's a bummer. But some doors were closed and some doors were open. But yeah, that's kind of just the decision I ended up making with a lot of help from people I really trusted. And as far as like what I do is I basically just travel around and run races and try to win races and try to get or run fast times. That's pretty much it. Not much to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you invited to these races, or does your agent get these races for you? How does that work?
It depends on like the level of race. Someone I can just sign up for, but definitely like the big, really big pro runs, you kind of need an agent to get your foot in the door and need to be more established to get into.
Yeah. How hard of a decision was that to sign, let's just say, a lucrative contract for a young 18-year-old and then miss the opportunity
Forego college.
to forego college? Because he's dealt with that with people on the baseball side. You know, when do you make that decision or not? But how was that? I mean,
it was tough. Like I really wanted to like come to and run at Northern Arizona and kind of be a part of what they got going on here. And I like everyone I talked to, like I just talked to a lot of people I trusted and kind of like got my head straight, and it ended up just being like the right move to stay with the people that like got me good and just like kind of like cash in while like my stock is high, because as soon as I go to college, I'm just another college runner and kind of lose like some of my like value.
mhm.
Yeah, but it was really tough, and like I'm glad I don't have to make that decision again. I think it was the right decision, but it was not easy, even if I knew it was the right decision.
Right. So this show is the Pulling Each Other Along show with Dave Geist, Dave Clark, and myself, Doug Cornfield. But I do want to ask you a question. Even though you're young, you're 18, you've been thrust into literally a worldwide spotlight. I know people don't understand that if they're not part of the track and field world, but you're getting compared to the Webbs and the Jim Ryans of old and Marty LaCourys, and I think some of those folks have actually reached out to you. But if you can think back, and we try to ask a question of what pulled you along, at least to your young life so far. If you have, what are those things that pulled you along?
Or who?
Yeah, I just a few things. Like the first is I just really like the act of running, and it's just kind of like running makes me feel more me, if that makes sense. It's just like a really natural thing for me. And it's just part of me. It is like the big thing. And then I also like got really lucky. Like my folks kind of like had like at least in my opinion, like a really healthy way of like approaching sports with their kids, with me and my sister, which I feel like can be really hard for some parents because for whatever reasons, but they just kind of let me do my thing. And even though they're both runners, kind of let running be my thing and let climbing be my thing. And they just had a really good approach towards it, which like they didn't have no pressure was on me, and they just like kind of like helped me learn to love the sport. So
right. And you made some leaps and bounds. I mean, you didn't all of a sudden just become a 3:34 runner. You were ninth grade. What was your progression? Because this is more of my kind of question. What was your progression from 9th, 10th, 11th? We might have some runners that are running right now. My son, who Jared, he'd always ask, Dad, what'd you run in 9th grade? What'd you do in 10th grade? He always wanted to know. And I did the same thing to my dad. My dad, for those that don't know, we have a bit of a track background. That's my father in first place. That's actually in Franklin Field, Hobbs, that picture.
Oh, nice. That's a cool picture.
Running way back. It was, I think, in the Philadelphia Inquirer, this picture. And, there was no pro back then. My dad had to hitchhike to the Olympic trials, very, very different, running on cinders and wood. But, those situations are really cool. But, what pulled you along in those worlds as well?
Yeah, like as far as my progressions, like I kind of like came on late, I guess. I was like a little bit of a late bloomer, so I was pretty small as a freshman and sophomore even. So I think I ran like maybe 5:40 in 8th grade, maybe like 4:54 as a freshman in high school, which I was like, I remember like breaking 5 for the first time, and it was like I was so happy, and I won the race, and it was a really cool experience. As a sophomore, I ran 4:24, which is another race I was really proud of because like I think I ran 4:24.98, and the qualifier for the state meet was 4:25 flat. So that was super cool to kind of squeak in and get to go to the state meet. My junior year, everything was kind of canceled because of COVID, and I'm like, there was nothing really to do but run. So I'm like, okay, like I really want to win the state meet in cross country my senior year. So I'm like, we're gonna get to work. And so I kind of, even though the season was canceled, I ended up doing time trials. So I ended up running 4:08 as a junior off of just like kind of base training. And I think I probably, if there was a season and I was a little sharper, maybe could have run 4:03, but I was really happy with the 4:08 I ran. And then as a senior in high school, I ran a 3:57 mile indoors, and then a 3:34 1500, which is like a 3:51-ish mile. But yeah, like there's kind of a lot more than like just the times, because like just like growing and like kind of like putting more into running and stuff like were all factors. And it's like it's not like I like got like way better at once. Like I just kind of had a really steep. I got better really quickly, and it just like kind of it was a steep line, rather than just like I just like showed up. But there just wasn't wasn't always like spots to measure where it was at, even though I was there.
No, pretty
It's moving.
amazing.
So what was your fastest mile time?
I ran a 3:57.
2:57. I think
But
mine was
but
like 3:20, but that was like all the way around the bases, I think.
That was the first
home.
base,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
yeah. No, but the 334 it would convert to about a 351 mile is what he was saying. So that you
Nice.
don't run the mile. Actually, you don't run the mile race very often anymore. It's still a historic race. And how many high schoolers have broken the 4-minute mile, Hobbs?
I think I might have been the 12th or 13th.
Has there been that many now?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it's gonna be pretty common from now on. I feel like we'll see one or two each year. Like in the 60s, three high schoolers broke it, and then it
Right.
wasn't broken again in high school until Alan Webb for like 30 years. So it kind of goes in waves, but I think just like it's just gonna be more and more common from now on. But it's still really cool to be a part of that club.
So if there's some young runners out there that are listening, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would say like I know like everything like feels really really immediate, and like I found this too, but have like a very long term look on everything. Like be the best runner you can like in your life when you're 25 to 28. Like it's fun to be like the best freshman on your team and stuff, but look you got to look past that and like look at the long term growth, because at the end of the day, like especially in high school, everyone's just kind of in different places, like physically, like how physically mature they are. So it's hard to like compare, and also like just don't train. Like I feel like just make sure like you like leave some in the tank. Like it's fun to be good in high school, but in the grand scheme of things, be your best in college and as a pro.
Gotcha.
So what is your training routine like? I mean, obviously there's running involved, but what other kind of activity do you do for your running training?
It's mostly just running.
It is, okay.
And doing intervals and steady state running and stuff like that. And I like to climb this cross training a lot. I really make sure I do that to try to maintain my strength and go into the physio and like doing exercises and getting sports massage and stuff. But there's not a lot to it.
Okay. Oh, that's enough.
Would my son Jared agree with you when you say there's not a lot to it?
I think like I don't know that much about baseball, but you're only really trying to get better at one thing, in running, and I don't know. It's pretty simple compared to a lot of other sports. There's definitely nuances. Don't get me wrong, but
so what are the advantages of being in Flagstaff?
Just obviously like the 7,000 feet is why a lot of people come here, and and there's a lot of like really good trails and soft surface running. I think the coolest thing about being in Flagstaff is just like there's just so much running culture here and like so many other like really elite runners to be around, which is kind of like it's just a cool culture here is the big thing, and it's kind of where like a lot of pro runners congregate, especially in the winter.
Right. And what does that do for people? If you can explain that to our audience here, the being 7,000 feet high.
I'll describe it. I'm not a coach, but it basically lets you kind of get more aerobically developed with less kind of wear and tear on your body, since there's less oxygen available up here, so you can get more fit with less beating up on your legs and body, so lower injury risk. And there's a bunch more benefits, but I'm not the one to I don't know enough about it to describe them.
You'll just trust the scientists, right?
Yeah, I trust my coaches.
There you go.
I'm going to relate those high altitudes to baseball because I happened to pitch in Colorado a couple times, and the ball goes a lot farther.
Yep.
When it's in. I had some.
That's because you were pitching.
I was pitching, and I had some mammoth shots hit off me in Colorado.
You didn't have.
So the ball goes a lot farther.
Yeah.
You mean so I might have hit it out of the infield?
Maybe it's a
May-
tough one.
Maybe, yeah.
It's a tough one. So Hobbs, what's the direction? We always ask something, and this might not.
Let's go the basic question.
Yeah, we'll have to ask the basic question.
So Hobbs, we always ask this question of our guests each week, and it's an off the wall question. And I have a feeling you may struggle with this question.
Yeah, there's no way this question fits him
because of your training routine. But what is your favorite donut?
So kind of my coach brings donuts to every workout. That's kind of like his one of his quirks. So I end up eating a lot of donuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. After every workout, he brings donuts and chocolate milk.
Go figure.
Yeah. So I always go for the maple glaze. I've never eaten more than one bite of a coconut donut in my life. I'll tell you my least favorite, but I like chocolate. I like maple glaze.
What's your least favorite? We've never gone that route. What's your least favorite?
Oh,
coconut. I don't understand how people why like you ruin the donut with it.
I'm not a coconut fan.
Fan.
I'm with you on the coconut. I can eat it more now than I used to, but
I don't not like it. Just supposed to be an enjoyable thing.
Nikel loves coconut. She's telling us here,
Yep.
Listening in from Oregon. She's in Oregon. I don't know if she's a duck, but I know she's listening in from Oregon. Because that's that's the main competition for NAU. Oftentimes is the Oregon, now BYU, all those runners out there. So we had a question earlier from one of our runners that is a regular listener here, and he had two questions. You might have answered one of them, but maybe you can answer them again. He says, "What are your short-term goals with running?" And then he says, "Also, what are your long-term goals with running?" Pretty simple, straightforward. So let's start with your short-term goals right now.
Right now, my goal is just kind of figure out myself as a runner and just figure out what my life is going to look like now, and all the little details with that, and just training at a slightly higher level, and so there's a lot of stuff's new. So just managing all the new stuff that's going on is my goal right now, and not get too worked out and just kind of enjoy it. Long term, this might sound shallow, but I just really want an Olympic medal. Is my long term goal.
That doesn't sound shallow at all. That's awesome.
No, and it's all right to even want Olympic gold.
Yep,
that's right.
Get there, but it's all right to want it and go for it. And Jim Ryan, I get to meet him when I was a kid. And I think I've got a picture here of him. I think he's reached out to you, hasn't he?
Yeah. I've met him over Zoom a few times.
Yeah. Did he give you any kind of advice that was helpful?
Yeah. It was good meeting him. A lot of his advice was through I guess parts of the Bible, which I'll have to have my roommate translate because I'm not super religious, but I kind of I get the gist of what he's saying, so I appreciate his kind words.
Yeah. I mean, he had a lot of pressure on him as a young man. At the whole spotlight. And of course, I was very young, but being that my father was in the running world, I think I got to see Jim Ryan run in 1970-ish at Franklin Field, and he didn't win that particular race. He didn't run very well, and everybody was thinking he was a has-been and all that kind of stuff. And then and he got second in 68, I think, in the Olympic 1500 meters. He didn't win that. And then in 72, I can remember it literally like yesterday because it meant so much to my father. And then when Jim Ryan got literally tripped in the 72 Olympics during the prelims and wasn't able to advance, it's still a memory that I remember as a pretty young person. I was 8 years old when all that went on. And so, but most kids didn't have a father that was a world-class runner and that cared so much about those things. So do you remember that stuff?
I don't.
What about Dave Geist? Do you remember any of the things with Jim Ryan? And
Not well. I mean, I've heard of him obviously, and I knew that he was a big time runner, but I couldn't tell you what he ran or anything like
Right.
that.
You would have to go back to who do you know in 1972? Like Dave's favorite memories is the 1969 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stories about the 1969 World Series?
1969 or 59?
Easy, Dave. Easy. Easy
You probably remember the 1959.
I have a question. Good buddy of all of ours, Mike Bowers. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
He's asking Hobbs, are most Olympic runners pros now, or must they be pros to run in the Olympics? And before you answer that, let me ask both you guys, since you're the runners, is running now in the Olympics like basketball and baseball, where in my day they had to be amateur, but now the pros are allowed in to compete?
Yeah, in Jim Ryan's era, he wasn't allowed to accept money. I remember him when we did a podcast together. So when I remember hearing him talk about that. Like he had a hard time supporting himself and his family running, even though he was the best in the world. Luckily nowadays, like the system's a little different, and you're allowed to accept money now, which makes running a lot easier. So you can be most runners who go to the Olympics are professional. It's very rare for a runner without a shoe contract or some other deal that allows them to be professional to go to the Olympics, just because you need the support.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, coming out of college in 1988 is my last real race. We didn't have any. I hate that viewpoint there. That doesn't work for us.
There you go.
So, coming out in 1988, there was really no money. There was no way for people to go. It was just all starting. The dream team hadn't happened. Dwight Stones, if you know him, he was a great high jumper from the day. He was one of the ones that really kind of spearheaded getting money. I remember even being concerned if I made too much in the summer, that would make too much to make me ineligible for my scholarship. We couldn't even make too much money. I don't even know how they tracked all that stuff, and they didn't. But that was one of the things that they told me when I was at Georgia is you can't make too much money in the summer. So at different days, and so I'm glad those days are gone. I think it's going to be interesting. What do you think about the what's happening in the NCAA right now, Hobbs? Where now students can kind of go the other directions. They can make millions off of their likeness.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like an interesting parallel between like what the AAU. I don't know a lot about it, but like what the AAU was doing, like in the 60s and 70s, and before that, like with not like athletes couldn't go to Olympics or were ineligible if they accepted money, and the NCAA was like that until recently, and I don't know a ton about the name image like this, but it's definitely a good step. Because like it's more, I feel like, through the lens of football and baseball and basketball. So, and track kind of like, that's how a lot of rules in the NCAA are, and track kind of gets is put in there. Yeah. But I think it's good because it just gives athletes more options. And like they've obviously created a brand for themselves. So
right. And I'm sure Adidas is obviously hoping to do that with you some. And do you have some bonuses and things like that in your structure? If you run so fast, you break records. And
yeah, I'm not eligible because I have performance incentives in my contract, which is one of the things that you can't have if you want to compete in the NCAA still. So yeah, but we're in a weird era right now in the NCAA because like everything's kind of getting figured out.
Right. And it may, I know Dave and I met a guy named Bob Schmidt who played football for USC way back in the day. when they had no rules. And so he was getting acting jobs. He was the star quarterback. He was getting acting jobs in Hollywood, and he was making real money. He played in things like Spartacus and all this. And he's telling us all these stories, because they didn't have those regulations back then. And of course, it was because of things like that where USC had a significant advantage to bring in top players. Because if they were the star quarterback, oh, well, you look like an actor, and all of a sudden here's $10,000 on the side, come by and we'll put you in a scene. And so things like that were happening, and we're going to see that again, I would think, with the new shift of all that. So speaking of football, are you a football fan at all, Hobbs?
Never been to a football game.
Never.
My coach is determined.
Perfect. Perfect.
My coach is determined to make me a football fan, but it's going to take a lot because I just see whenever I watch football, I just see people running into each other, and then they take a 10-minute break and don't do anything, and I watch a bunch of commercials. So.
That was kind of like your baseball days. It was just people running into each other. You're supposed to call it
chasing my balls.
Yes. So. Anyway, so every since I don't even know what our record is. I think you're 5-1, Dave Clark. So we have to make predictions today for the Thursday night football game for the Pulling Each Other Along show. We have the Broncos playing the Cleveland Browns. So, Hobbs, since you don't know, oh my gosh, that was actually quite scary, Dave, guys.
It was a jump scare.
Yeah,
it's like your Halloween outfit.
Yeah, there you go.
Clown's helmet. Did you guys have that for a skit back in the day when you were the Colgate boys?
No.
They are the Colgate boys. So, Hobbs, you want to go first? Prediction: who's going to win tonight? Denver Broncos or
Broncos.
Broncos.
I go Bronco. I feel like they're I feel like I haven't heard good things about Cleveland sports, but I don't know if that's true or not.
There's some truth to that. Although the football team's okay this year. What happened to Dave Geis? I think he's for Broncos. We'll have to get him back. I don't know. He's there. You're scaring me. You're spooking me. So I assume you're going with Denver, Dave Geis?
Yes, sir. With all the injuries that Cleveland has going on right now, yeah, Denver.
Uh-oh. Mike Bowers, he's a
Brown
he's
fan.
A Brown. He's going Brownie.
He's a Guardian fan.
Guardian, yes.
He's
a
the
Guardian
new Guardians.
fan.
And then we got who else? Tom, he's going with Denver. Dave Clark, what do you got?
Denver.
Yeah, there we go.
Hobbs, should I go against the grain?
Go for it. Yeah.
I don't think Cleveland's going to win, though, tonight.
They're going to lose.
I'm going to go Cleveland. I'll go Cleveland. I hate going. I like beating you guys better than going. It's more fun next week when I get to say I won.
But when you're 1-6.
But I'm not 1-6.
Whoa. Yeah, we gotta figure these records out.
Dave Geis is like 3-3. So there we have it. Hey, do we have any questions from our fans that are out there watching for this
Rusty
young man?
Guy is back on, and Barb and Peter.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Everybody, and thanks,
Mikel.
April.
Y'all a bunch of pinheads.
Y'all a bunch of pinheads. That's a clown thing.
Uh-huh.
That's a clown thing.
Hobbs, you got any questions for these two guys? I mean, I know I told you a little bit about Dave Clark, but they were the pro athletes. I didn't go the pro rank. They played in a minor league baseball. Dave played over in the Swedish major leagues, pitching off his crutches.
And we both got to the bigs in capacity.
Yeah, and they both
some way. Yep.
As a coach and a bullpen catcher. But is there anything you would want to know, or a story of these guys? We were telling a story about running for you earlier.
Yeah. Baseline, the Swedish baseline. I used to run 5 miles a day on my crutches.
Right.
Oh man.
To 13 minutes. 13-minute miles. So nothing in your stratosphere, but it definitely kept my upper body strong and allowed me to do it. Just what you said. You gotta want it. You gotta go after it, and you gotta put the time and the work in to get to where you want to go.
Definitely.
So you got a question for either of these two men?
Yeah, I would. I was wondering, like, while you were playing or like traveling around playing baseball, what's like the most unusual story that you have?
Oh,
Or
boy.
crazy thing. Doesn't
We
really
can't tell
involve
those
baseball.
online.
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
in tell nutcase, man. I mean, that's one of the most unusual. Unless you got something else.
going through throwing a bike through the window.
Yeah.
So you meet all kinds of players when you're on a baseball team. Some of them, like me, don't have a lot upstairs. Some of them are very, very smart, very intellectual. But we had one guy on the 1975 Indianapolis Clown that I played with, and he had reached Double-A with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. He was on his way back down, and his name was we won't name.
Right.
His first name was Bob, and nickname was L.A. He was from Los Angeles, and he just really wasn't all there. The story was that he had gotten into a motorcycle accident and split his head open, and he had to have a metal plate put back in his head. And he talked really slow. Great guy, but talked really slow. And, he would talk like this. And so we all, with the bus stop, we got out of the bus, we went into this restaurant and ordered some food, and LA ordered a hamburger, and when he got it, he asked the waiter for some mustard, and so the waiter brought back one of those little packets of mustard, and he told him that that would be 10 cents, and LA looked at him and said, 10 cents? Are you kidding me? And because we were getting $5 a day meal money at that time, 10 cents was a huge amount. So the rest of the team, knowing LA, we started immediately getting ready to vacate. That was the best way to put it, because we knew LA was the volcano was going to erupt. And so the guy said, yeah, that'll be 10 cents. So LA got up, he walked outside. This place had a big plate glass window out front, and he goes outside, and there's this bike outside the window, and by this time we're all up and out. You talk about running your 357 mile. I may have come close to it that night, at least for a little bit, because I was hightailing it out of there, because LA picked that bike up and he threw it right through the plate glass window, and it shattered everything.
Oh.
And we were all over 10 cents. And, we were out of there in a hurry that night.
Yeah. So.
I like that you knew it was coming. We start vacating.
That's me in any sport, Hobbs, is anticipation.
Anticipation.
And we anticipated that.
And know your teammates.
Yeah. There's definitely other stories that he has with as they say, nutcase or LA.
Well, one of them, back in the day when I was first trying out, I don't know if you know this one, George Long. You know George.
Yep.
George was running the team when I first tried out for him in the mid-'70s. And George's rule was the Muscatine Hotel, Muscatine, Iowa.
Oh, God.
And you were 4 to a room when you tried out. Well, none of us were going to sleep in the same bed with some other guy. So we take the mattress off and you do a flip. The losers got the box springs. Winners got the mattress. And so here we are. And George's rule was if you got caught, you had to pay your expenses to the point where you got caught. You had to pay the hotel and the meal bill. So this one guy in our room, he gets cut. And he goes up to LA and he goes, LA. He says, listen, I'm just going to go. You want to make some bucks? And LA go, yeah, sure I will. And he goes, I'm going to sneak through the hotel lobby without my suitcases. I got 2 suitcases. He says, and we're 4 floors up now. We're 4 floors up in the Muscatine Hotel. And he says, LA, you go down and go on the sidewalk underneath the room window. I'm going to drop the bags out. I'll walk through. George won't think I'm leaving. And you just drop the bags out onto the sidewalk. Catch them if you can. So here we are. We're hoping LA gets drilled so we can lose another guy and have a better chance of making a team.
Such a nice guy you are.
And so the guy goes down through the lobby. He gets under our window, and or LA goes through the lobby, and he gets under the window, and the guy holds the bag out the window. He goes, "You ready, LA?" And, "Yeah, I'm ready." He looks up. Guy drops the bag. That's going four floors down, man, and it hit LA right on the head. He's down like a snow angel on the concrete. And the guy's looking at him. And again, we're all going, yeah, there's another guy going. And then he gets up and go, shoot. He got up. LA gets up and the guy goes, you ready for a shot? Yeah. So same thing. Same freaking thing. Hits him in the head, knocks him down. But LA gets 2 bags down. The guy walks through the lobby and he got out without paying. Got out without paying George's money. George never knew that.
You didn't tell him in the interview?
No, we didn't tell him. So,
Now I see where some of your rules came from on the clown.
Exactly. Some things didn't change.
Yes, some things I'm pretty familiar.
Hobbs will tell you, you learn from your role models.
There you go.
Yes.
George was your role model. Okay.
George was your role model. Oh my gosh. So this guy, George Long, Hobbs, just to kind of give you an idea, he was the 3rd owner of the famous Indianapolis Clowns, which was, do you know the name Hank Aaron?
No.
No, yes.
Oh my goodness.
So that would be like, so Google Hank Aaron. He just passed away this year. We actually talked about him on one of our early shows.
I told Doug once, Hobbs, that everybody would know. How about Babe Ruth?
I know Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right.
Don't worry.
Okay. All right. So anyway.
That shows the age.
Go ahead.
The age difference. So Hank Aaron is or maybe not as famous as Babe Ruth anymore.
Apparently not.
But Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run record back in the 70s. And he played on the same team that Dave wound up buying from, or Dave and Dave buying from.
But I didn't play
George
with
Long.
him.
Yeah, no, you're pretty close.
No.
Anyway, so now Hank Aaron or Henry Aaron, we would consider him the home run king because he did it without steroids and all those things back in the days of that stuff. So anyway, Hobbs, any more questions for these guys before we let you go?
I think that's all I got. But
man, I'm sure you got more. You'll have more stories in the future.
Oh yeah.
No, Bill.
I just like a story about characters.
Yeah.
Well, just read Dave's book.
That could go on a long time.
Are you in the book, Dave, guys?
No.
I don't know. Are you?
You in any of those stories?
I think
Are you in
I think there's a photo. I think there's a picture of me when we had that deal in Elmira, and we had like a group.
Yeah, I think that's in there.
Yeah. Jared, my son Jared was the bat boy that day.
Nice.
And he's now coaching. He's not really coaching officially, Hobbs. He's not really coaching officially, but he's definitely helping out with. I guess we can say helping out, Hobbs. What we can say?
Yeah, he's definitely a big influence on my running right now.
Very nice.
So
very good.
Yeah.
So we'll be watching you with anticipation, not pressure. Hope.
That's right.
Dreams. There's a quote that Dave Clark had that was actually Tom Demolakis kind of threw it out here. Dave says there's 2 types of dreamers. There's dreamers that dream, and there's dreamers that dream and do. And so I think that would be good advice for a young man like you. It's okay to dream, but then go after those dreams and see how far you can take it and make us, all proud as Americans, because, we're all going to be cheering for you.
That's right. USA.
Yeah. When's your next race? There's a question that just came out.
Probably not till January or so. Just trying to get better first.
Yeah. do some base work, and that'll be an indoor race most likely. And
Yeah.
do you think you'll be itching to race by then?
Yeah, hopefully. Right now, I'm just like itching to run hard because been holding back for a few months here.
Yeah. Well, you had a long season doing the Olympic trials, running that incredible race. Actually, there was in the graphic that I showed here, but this particular graphic, when you ran the 3:34:36, the gentleman, who's the guy that won that? What's his name?
Craig Ingles is his name.
Right. So he won that race, but when he looked and found in the video, you can find this on YouTube if anybody's interested to go watch this race. You don't really see much of you because they're
In the shadows.
leaders. But he immediately knew what you did, and I think you guys took pictures together, and he was excited for you, and that's really good to see because that's a pulling each other along moment. He wasn't. Yes, you're competing, but he was also really pleased on how well this young runner came up, because it's probably just going to be a matter of time when you're racing as fast or competing against him.
So only a part of a fraction of a second back, but the overall, like, the running community has been like super welcoming of me, which is super cool.
Well, we like hearing that on the pulling each other along, because you guys had that. Your teammates, you just heard Dave telling a story, your teammates, and you're competing against them, but at the same time you have a common goal of needing to win, and there's sometimes that's a difficult thing to balance.
Internal competition.
The internal competition is sometimes the hardest thing to balance. That's great when when people are genuinely helping each other.
Don't drop any suitcases on your
No, don't do that. Well, to Hobbs, I know it's 3 hours earlier for you, so have a good night tonight. And we're going to check out. Do we have any music wrapped up here?
Hobbs, thanks for being with us, and good luck to you.
We have some
It was
songs.
good meeting you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us. Thanks for listening in, all the people that are out there, and wherever you are all. And we have West Coast, and thanks for listening. You got some music for us there, Mr. Producer?
Sure. Let's see what we got.
Joe.
There we go. Nobody's gonna break my stride. This was a song that we listened to in the '80s when we were running, but I don't know if we can hear it very loud. So we'll go out with that. Everybody, thank you. Have a nice night. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. I think we're on for next week. But there we go, Dave. There you go. All right. Good night, and we'll see you all again soon.